Hey, it's Friday again, so let's get into this week's DIY bucket. We're gonna do chicken wire mechanics again. We're working with this concrete pot that we used for the send outs this week. It's about a 5-inch open at the top, and it's about 6 inches tall. So I cut a square that, this kind of takes up a quarter of it, essentially. This is the coated chicken wire that we use. And last week I tried a new method where I used a long piece and I kind of went back and forth, and I didn't love it as much. So this week I'm going to do the same method I usually do, where I take the two sides and coil them, sort of turn these into the center, so it makes more of like a tube with the cut ends towards the center, like so. And then I take the two ends and roll them over each other, sort of like a woolly bear caterpillar or a burrito. And then you'll have this spot on top that's more finished. We won't have any cut ends. And that's the part that's going to be on the top when you press this into your container. So it has a slight mound at the top. We're going to push it all the way down in there because our arrangement is going to be mostly on top. We're not really doing anything in it. The sides are dripping over. So then you just want to work around a little bit, move some of that wire around so there isn't too many spots where there's a lot of back and forth, because you want it kind of even in there to hold your stems, and we're ready to go. So in this week's bucket, we have these light green Mojito hydrangea, super nice as a base. So they have lots of laterals. We're going to take any of these leaves off that could be problematic with getting other stems or them falling into the water. So we're going to clean that off and then cut on an angle. You know the drill. You're going to make sure that the stems are nice and clean. Measure to that bottom third and go ahead and place it in at a very slight angle. We just want it to cover the top. Do the same thing with the other one. You'll have two in your bucket on the other side, like so. So now you're going to have some little holes on the side. We've got a couple of mini green hydrangea, just like last week. These are the softer green color. These are a little bit knobby, so you definitely want to take your time and get all of the little bumps off the edges so that it goes easily into the chicken wire, and then take off any leaves that are seemingly getting in the way. We're going to go right in between, and we're going to let those sort of hover on top of our larger hydrangea. These have lots of greens. I'm going to take those off. If you love the greens, you can go ahead and leave them. Just be careful with the subsequent stems that you're putting into your arrangement, because they will push these down or either damage them or push them into the water, and we don't want to push anything down into the water. All right, so I'm going to tuck that in like so. Do another one right here. So they're basically covering over the top of our container. There can be some holes in between, creating a little bit of texture by not having everything pushed in at the same level. And there we go. So you can see it kind of sticking out a little bit. So move them around. This one might be a little bit long. Go a little shorter. There we go. Okay. It's got good coverage. Ready to roll. Now we have some cocculus foliage. We had this last week as well. I've been using this a lot because it's been coming in really nice, and also it has like a nice large leaf and you can use it a bunch of times. So I'm gonna take one of these bottom pieces and trim it, and then use this as one of the insertions to go in between my hydrangea and just kind of peep out there. I'm gonna use this as many times as I can. Obviously you're gonna use the top part, which is the nicer one, like so. Just take these little pieces off at the bottom so they don't go into your water, and then just tuck it into your hydrangea. And do that as many times as you can. So that was 2 placements on that one. Maybe we can get 3 on this one, we'll see. Probably just 2 on this one too. Trim it in half, do the top piece into your arrangement. And then take your bottom piece, push the leaves up, trim it on an angle, and place it into your arrangement. So at this point, you're pretty well covered across the entire top of your arrangement. Clean this up off here, right onto the floor. All right, then we also have some Italian ruscus in our bucket. Kind of similar to the cocculus. You can use it for a couple of different placements. It has more of a vertical disposition, so it can stick out of your arrangement a little bit more. You're going to take some of the lower blooms off, or it's not blooms, leaves off, so that it's nice and clean going into your arrangement, and then go in here. And that can kind of come out and hang, give a little bit of a garden-y feel and texture. And we're going to do this a couple of times. Longer pieces, you should be able to get 3 placements out of a stem. One of the shorter ones, you might be only able to get 2 out of that stem. Use as much as you can, as much bang for your buck. This one looks like more of a 2. The bottom piece is always nice too because it's a little bit bushier, so it can fill in any spots where you have like a gap in between your blooms as well. And then the long end pieces are nice to kind of get a little bit of movement, something that breaks from the arrangement, gives a little bit of space, that more garden-y feel. Okay. All right, next up in the bucket, we have a line flower. We have some stock. So with stock, you can do a couple of different things. This is nice and beefy, but it's got these long tips. So you can choose to just rip that right off and just use the base of it, just for the pretty color. You could try to sort of manually straighten it slightly and then just use it for that whole look if you want something that's a little bit more garden-y and loose. Or you can get it into your arrangement and then figure it out as you go. I'm gonna do that. So we have 3 of these. They are a little bit bumpy on the stems, so you just wanna clean off any of the side leaves. I'm gonna put them into my arrangement through the hydrangea in a triangular formation. Got one there. Taking off any little icky blooms at the bottom, taking off any leaves, trimming off any knobs, putting it into the arrangement through that hydrangea bloom. Take off this guy. See, they have cool shape. They kind of grow towards the light, similar to other flowers, so just let it be natural. Just tuck it in. Work with the bloom so that it kind of comes out and doesn't go the opposite direction. Just goes in a direction that you like. Then we have some roses. We have Miyabi garden roses. They're total stunners and they hold their blooms for a long time, so they're a great selection. Use them in a lot of our work here. And they have pretty foliage too, so you can leave some of that on if you plan to let them hover in your arrangement a little bit, which I do. So no need for a blow and roll on this one. These are already pretty open, which is nice. Take off any outside petals that are not so pretty. And right in between my stock, you have 3 of these. This one is super gorgeous. So we will leave these on. There we go. You see all the flowers around your arrangement. Then we have 3 of these lavender garden roses. They're called Queen's Crown. A little bit fragrant, not crazy fragrant. You can do the same thing with this, just kind of tuck them in throughout. I like to put some in a little bit lower, some out a little bit, just to give it a little bit movement and texture. If you can use any of the greens, go for it. If not, totally fine to edit those out. Okay, so we'll tuck this guy in over here, maybe. Maybe scoot this one over a little bit so I'm not taking up the exact same space, huh? There we go. There we go. Okay, cool. Just got that going on all around our arrangement. Move the trash. Keep my space clean. Oh, add one more ruscus in there. I'll use that later. Okay, next up, we're gonna put our pretty salmon ranunculus in there. And these guys, we're just gonna go ahead and let them kind of float. You know, you want it to, at this point, there should be enough going on in your container plus the chicken wire to keep them above the other flowers and not worry about them sinking in too much. So just gonna give it a little poke. If you feel any resistance with the chicken wire, give it a twist. And if it's ultimately not going into that spot, then you can move it along to a different one. You don't want to keep pushing through the resistance because it will end up breaking that stem, and we don't want that. So again, we're gonna cut off these little nubs. We're gonna put it in so we can see their blooms. This guy doesn't seem to want to be where I want it, so I'm gonna take a moment to actually adjust. There we go. Okay, we have these awesome anemone in our bucket this week. The fuchsia are so pretty this time of year. We see a lot of them coming in. Everything kind of has that cool pink tinge. There. And I'll do one over to this other side. Now these are notorious for breaking, for the stems breaking. So really take your time with them. You don't want to split that stem. So definitely like give it a twist as it goes into the chicken wire. You don't want to force it. And then we have a couple of scabiosa here as well. You tuck those guys in. Again, you can take their little sleeves off if you like. Or if you're tucking them into the arrangement, you can leave the sleeves on for a little bit more stability, and that's fine too. Okay. And this extra little ruscus that I found down in my bucket, I'm gonna use this in at the end just to fill a couple of holes, get that green showing all the way through. Give it a little bit of space. There we go. Oops. And then you just want to even your guys out. Let everyone have their space to shine. Nobody laying on anyone. Nice movement, nice wiggle. You can see it's got a little movement. It's all very good. All right, go through and replace. And there you have it, this week. Happy designing. Oh, and feel free to leave any comments or questions, of course, in the comments, and we'll get right back to you. Thanks so much for designing with us today.